next minute or so, feel free to jump in. And tonight's class will be recorded. So if you need to leave early, if you need to slow down and take your time with tonight's picture, you always go at your speed. That's a really important thing with our classes. So take your time. You can always reference a video on any additional details, and be sure to take breaks as you need it. I'm so glad that folks received the updated link. We appreciate your understanding for the resend. So we apologize for any inconvenience, and I'm so glad that we were able to resend that to you quickly. So a big thanks to the AARP New Hampshire team who got that out fairly quickly for us tonight. Mary, you did great.
You just sit there. Yes. You can sit here.
Hello, everybody. Hi.
So I'd like to introduce Mary. Go ahead.
Started yet. This is what.
Yes, everybody. If you could please mute yourselves. Hello, could you please mute yourself?
Reindeer or something.
Let me see if I can. Mary, I don't have the power to do that.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to mute everybody, Megan, and then I will open it up to you.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Sometimes that's the best.
You have brushes? You have brushes?
Yeah.
I have some there too.
Yeah.
Would you rather sit here?
No, I'm fine. You need to.
And then you want to unmute yourself.
Yep, Mary, I'm unmuted, so go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. And as Megan said, I want to thank everybody for your patience and your understanding while we work through a little bit of technical difficulties. We keep trying new things at AARP, and sometimes it becomes an experiment. But I do want to thank Megan for having this paint class with us tonight. I'm sure you're all going to enjoy it. I just want to let everybody know that here at AARP New Hampshire, we do focus on the health and the financial security and the social connections that are critical to the well-being of the 50 plus in the state of New Hampshire. We do our work through targeted advocacy at the state and federal levels and compelling engagements of the 50 plus community statewide. And we serve as a trusted resource for information for our members and the public. We do have some resources which we will be putting in the link during the class. We also want to let you know that balancing caregiving responsibilities with work or other family obligations can feel overwhelming, even in the best of times. And I'd like to stress that it's okay to reach out for support when you need it. Caregiving for a loved one is one of the most important roles you'll play as a friend or a family member, but no one should try to approach this responsibility of caregiving alone. So AARP does have local caregiving resource guides to help family caregivers. And if you are starting to think about becoming a caregiver, AARP does have a guide called Prepare to Care, which may help you as you start your caregiving journey. Versions of this guide are available in multiple languages, as well as for specific audiences, such as veteran and military families and the LGBTQ community. So in addition to all these great resources, you can find numerous stories, articles, and more helpful information on our AARP caregiving website. We do provide lots of opportunities to connect with your community and with one another without leaving with home. This is one of a few of the virtual events that we do offer. So thank you everybody for joining us. And Megan, thank you so much for your patience tonight. I am looking forward to your class. I haven't been able to attend in the last couple of months, so I'm really excited to be here.
I love it. Well, Mary, thank you so much. And as always, Mary has shared some wonderful resources, and she'll drop those in the chat, just so you all have quick links to our resources with AARP. for caregiving. They have many, many resources that you may or may not be familiar with. I did have folks drop their name and where you're located in the chat. We have folks from all over the country. I always love seeing folks from New Hampshire and New England, but also from out west and all over. So a warm welcome to each of you. If you haven't been here before, my name is Megan and I'm based in Vermont, and I've been working with AARP New Hampshire for a number of years now, and it's such a pleasure to be here. Some of you may have been to my classes before and may have you have not. So whether you are new or not, a warm welcome. The only supply that you'll need that's kind of out of the ordinary tonight is a pencil. And the pencil will do some upfront sketching. So due to time, we're going to jump right in. And you all can see my festive green nails here. So happy holidays. So what we're going to do is we're going to sketch our Highland cow. And we're doing and I have the visual up over here, so you can see our visual inspiration, and you can see my canvas right here as well. So for me, I like to think about the Highland cow in the composition of placement, how big or how small something may be. Now, this is a little drawing and sketching. So no matter, of your experience level, just take a deep breath, be yourself, and always go at your own speed in these classes. One of the things I always like saying up front is, if you have an idea and you want to do something a little different, I'll always encourage you to do something a little different. Art is about embracing the experience, kind of being in the moment. So just feel free to incorporate your own ideas along the way. Okay. All right. That's enough of my spiel. Let's jump into this. So I like to use my hands sometimes as placements, and maybe my Highland cow will be over here on this side. And maybe I'll use my hand to say, well, where would the head be to start? Maybe will the ears be? So I can kind of start to do a little bit of shaping of, well, maybe this is the top of the head right here. And I'm going to put a hat on top of the head. So it's okay to do a little bit of rough sketching for placement. So I know the face is going to be in this area, and I'm going to leave room on top of the head for the hat. But I want there to be a little bit of space around the top of the hat. So these are just dots that I use for placement. So sometimes that's helpful to kind of get your shaping in place. So if this is the forehead of the cow, kind of where the hat meets, I can kind of come straight down and do a dot for the bottom of the chin, which is kind of interesting, right? And if I look at the picture, there's probably 2 or 3 inches down here. And this is where you can figure out how big or how small you want your holiday Highland cow to be. So I can always move these dots around. So if I wanted to make his chin a little lower, I can erase this and make it a little lower, okay? So we just start somewhere with regards to how high the hat is, and then how long the face is from the forehead to the bottom of the chin. And we could start there, really as easy as that. And then you can start to do a little bit of a shape for the face. So maybe my face will kind of come out and down, and the chin is kind of rounded. And you're going to kind of go off the page, maybe. You want to have a symmetrical face. So our cow's going to have lots of hair, but you can see I kind of have a face going a little bit here. And you can reshape your face. And I'm going to show you what it's like to have lots of lines. Guess what? That's okay. So play with the shape of your face. Drawing can be hard, so it's just kind of giving ourselves a little bit of grace to draw kind of a symmetrical face outline. And drawing takes practice, so just remember not to be too hard on yourself as we're playing with some of these details, okay? And this will actually boost our confidence as we start painting this all in, because we'll know that the shape of the face you're fairly happy with it. So the chin is a little bit more narrow, but the bottom it's still fairly boxy. So if I want to make the bottom chin a little more boxy, I can make it less round and a little more boxy. So you can make some of these choices as an artist today, because you're all professional artists today, by the way, or aspiring artists. So you can see I'm just playing with the shape of the chin. Is my face perfect? No, but we do not strive for perfection in these classes. So keep that in mind. Strive to have a good time. And I can always change the shape of the face as we get going. That's no big deal. And then I can have some fun. Hey, let's do a little Santa hat on top here. So the hat is the same width as the face. So I'm just going to do kind of a fun Santa hat on top. And then we have these big horns. So we'll do the horns after. My face is really large. It's very large compared to the cow in the picture. But I'm going to embrace my large head, okay? This is the fun of art. So there's my Santa hat, but then there's these horns that come out. So you can kind of have fun with your horns. My horns are probably going to go off the page because my head is really big. So you can kind of play with your horns. Yeah, it looks like a horn, right? Something like that. We'll put in ears. So you can do kind of 2 horns off the head. And be sure to check and make sure you're muted here. There's the hat. And I'm going to have some kind of a fluffy. You don't have to do all this detail work now, but if you wanted to add a little bit of this brim to your hat, you could. And the top of the hat can be a little higher. So you can always reshape your Santa hat if you want. And your Santa hat doesn't have to be perfectly rounded. It can have a little shape to it.
Okay.
Mary, if you could check the audio for me and just make sure everybody's muted, that would be amazing. So just take your time with this drawing. You can play with how big your horns are compared to your head. My head is quite large, but I'm just going to embrace it for right now, ladies and gents. I'm just going to embrace it. If I need to make it smaller, guess what? I can always make my head a little smaller. Not a big deal. So if you wanted to draw in some of the nose, you could. I'm just reshaping my head just a little bit. Because one of the first things that we're going to do is once we're done our sketching, we're going to paint the back black. So my jaw is pretty stern here. I might make it a little wider. There. Look at, I had this skinny little jaw and mouth. I just made it a little wider. So that's just one of the things you can kind of reflect on. Okay. Is your mouth area too wide? Is it too narrow? You can play with that. Okay. And if folks could check your audio. I don't have the power here. Let's see. To mute everyone, but if folks could check. Yes, and if anyone needs to see me being on a larger screen, it's speaker view, so some of you may see that or not. And then you can give your cow a little bit of a body, which is kind of where its jaw starts coming in. This is where, and for me, it's the left side of the head. It kind of just comes out a little bit and down. And then the back of the cow is going to be on the other side. So you can see this is kind of a flat back for the top of the cow. So like half the cow is on and half the cow is off kind of thing. And I'll play more with my Santa hat here. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to be painting this anyway, so it's not a big deal. Okay, so I want you to focus on the head. I want you to focus on the horns because we're going to be hanging ornaments off this horn. So I want you to have space on this side of your canvas for ornaments. We're going to do the ornaments after. And then I want you to have a kind of a horn that's on this side of the head going off. And then I want you to have the body of the cow going off this side of the page too. And that's it for right now. We can do the nose and do all that after, but we're going to paint the background black. So if you need another few minutes to draw and sketch, you're welcome to take that time. Again, this class is recorded. I want you to take your time. Otherwise, if you are ready to move on, we're going to paint the background black together. So I'm just grabbing my black paint. And I have a paper plate that I'm using, and I'm just going to put a, if you have the container that I gave you, I'll teach you the trick on how to open the top. So there are 2 tabs on these containers. The tab on the left will open the top. So I'm a lefty. I like to hold it with my right hand, and I use my left fingernail to pry it open. So left thumbnail for me under the left tab. If you're a righty, you can use your right tab, right thumbnail, whatever you want. But I use my left thumbnail on the left tab, and I slowly pry it open. And you can use your big brush to scoop it out. And we have some more folks coming on. Welcome. And then I'm going to use a big brush, the biggest brush in my kit, which is this like large 1/2-inch brush. And I'm just going to start painting the background black. So this is our first step. This is where you can kind of relax. If your drawing is not perfect, don't worry about it, but we got to start putting paint to paper here. So you can always make your horns bigger. You can always adjust like the size of your face, no big deal, but start filling in all the way around your Highland cow. We're painting the background black. And I'm just kind of outlining some of these areas. Any way that you want to fill it in is fine. I'm using nice, smooth, horizontal brush strokes. But you can take a deep breath and just settle into the artistic experience. Always take your time in these classes. Always, always. And I'm so grateful that each of you are here to make a little bit of time for yourself. You all certainly deserve it. And again, my name is Megan, and I'm so glad that you're here with us. We will be having classes in January, so more details to come with AARP New Hampshire. So be sure to keep an eye out on the calendar for signups. If anyone has any questions throughout class, I am keeping an eye on the chat window, so feel free to use the chat if there's anything I can help you with throughout class today. So again, this side of the cow body kind of comes down like its shoulder, and then the opposite side of the cow head is its body. So keep that in mind as you're filling in your background with black paint. And I'm doing nice, smooth, horizontal brush strokes. If you're new to painting, you always kind of want to follow like one brush stroke when you're painting like a background area, whether you decide to do horizontal or vertical brush strokes. It just will make the paint go on a little bit more smooth, and it will reduce the visual component of there being like lots of brushstroke directions. It just makes it look a little bit more consistent if you are, as an artist, mindful on how you're filling in a space. And I like to talk about that. I have a lot of mindful tips that I share in these classes that will really help you be a little more present as you paint. It may reduce the stress. It may give you a new tip, may help you learn something new, all for consideration. So I'll offer different tips and tricks. You can take and choose what you leave here because it's all for fun, but here to offer different things along the way. And the other thing I'll share is as I go through some of these tight spaces, with this big brush, you can hold it on its side. So there's a more narrow brush stroke. So when I go against the horn, I use the more narrow side of this big brush stroke. And see that narrow brush stroke, that thin stroke it gave me? It's because I was using the side of the brush. If I spin this big brush in my hand, it actually can give me a wider brush stroke. So for the larger areas that I'm filling in, I use the wider side of the brush stroke. So the more you paint, the more you get comfortable with using a single brush in different ways, which is kind of cool. So I always love pointing that out because it's pretty crazy on how artists use, you know, a handful of brushes to do so many different things in our classes. So it's pretty neat. And we're using acrylic paint tonight. I'm not crazy about the shape of my Santa hat yet, but guess what? It's okay. I know that I can reshape this hat as needed, and you can use the black to kind of like reshape it if you want. Maybe I'll make it a little higher. I don't know. well, it's one of the things we do in these classes is we just kind of follow our intuition and roll with things along the way here. So if something doesn't look perfect to you, just know you can always come back to it. We typically take our time in these classes and know and appreciate the evolution of art. And if you need to use a smaller brush for some tighter areas, like over here, you can, but I'm just making it work because it should be fine. And we have lots of folks joining. Wonderful. And I'm just admitting them. So welcome to everyone that's joining. I know you may be joining a little bit late, no worries. Today's class is being recorded. My name is Megan. All we are doing as our first steps is we are sketched our Highland cow. We have a face and a head. I have a funky looking Santa hat going on. And then we have horns that go off the left and right. And then our Highland cow has a shoulder on one side coming down. Then it has like the back of the cow kind of coming off to this side. And then once your cow is sketched, we're just filling in the whole background with black. And that's where we're at. So if you need to catch up, no worries. You can easily catch up. And we did use a pencil to sketch the Highland cow from a positioning perspective. We have it more on for me, it's on this side here. And then I'm being intentional of leaving black space over here so we can hang some ornaments from the horn, which is going to be adorable. So take a minute to paint that background. I'm going to let it dry. Terrific. And I'm going to clean my brush. And then we'll do some base coats for our cow color. We'll do the hair on this cow is going to be so fun. And you can have, lush hair. You could have lots of different colors happen here, but we'll do the basic cow color first, which is like a soft, it's kind of an orangish brown. So we'll do that together. And who can confirm if you could use the chat window? Annabelle, no problem. Thank you so much. We do have the recording. This cow definitely has bangs. I am going for the bangs. This is a really stylish cow happening here tonight. If someone could confirm in the chat window, the color of the yellow that I sent you tonight. Some of you may have a lemon yellow. Some of you may have a medium yellow. Some of you may have an ochre. So if someone or multiple of you could just type in the chat window the color of yellow that I sent, we can mix the right color together as a group. I did send paints. So some of you were registered with paints. Some of you were not registered with paints. The registered with paint sold out pretty quickly. So if you register quickly, sometimes there's paints available, sometimes there's not. But I do send paints if you register quickly and those spots don't fill up. Yeah. All right. So some of you have the lemon yellow and some of you have a medium yellow. So that's absolutely fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to transition us to mixing an orange and maybe an orangey brown color. Okay. So we'll do that as a group. And orange might be a good base. You can really choose what color you want for your cow. I'm going to go for like a beigeish orange color. So that brown tone will really help make it look a little more natural. So I'll start to blend that orange, that cow color together. And this isn't like an out of the box color, but I'm here to help you do it. All right. So in addition to your yellow, you'll need red. I have a crimson in my hand. If you have another color red, don't worry. Just use whatever color red you have because I'll teach you how to make a brownish orange color. So to make an orange base, we're going to do yellow. And this is about, I don't want to say half the container, but do about a third of that. That should be fine. Maybe not a third. If you want to do a little less to kind of get going, you can. And I'm going to do a little bit of red over here. This is a crimson. It's just a dot, probably a thumbnail's worth. And I'm going to clean my big brush well. And you're only going to bring in a little bit of the red into the yellow. I'm talking about like a little bit. So a little red goes a long way. So start with a little and just bring a little of the red into the yellow and see what happens. So with art, you always take your time. You got to be a little patient with the process. And this part of the process is finding the color of the cow that we want. And in these classes, I will teach you to mix the most beautiful colors. And I'll teach you how to be a little patient along the way as well to find the right color. So this is like a mustard yellow. Guess what? That's not the right color. So I'm going to go get a little more red, bring that in, and the red's going to make it more orangey. If you add too much red, you're going to like lose the opportunity of making orange. So I'm getting a little more orangey here. I'm doing this slowly and progressively so you can see how my color changes. Now, I don't want this color to be too dark or too light. I kind of want it to be a medium tone. So right now I kind of have, in person, this is kind of like a pumpkin orange. It looks a little lighter on the camera, but a pumpkin orange is good because I'm thinking I can add a little bit of white, which I have some white right here. And I'm just going to put a dollop of white nearby. I'm going to grab a little, I'm going to lighten this and just see what happens. So I'm going to make it a little lighter. And then I'm going to give it a little bit of a brown tone. So I'm adding a little bit of white to this. And if some of you have like a Florida orange color, if you add a little tiny touch of blue, that's what I'm going to do next. It will give it a little bit of a brown tone. So knowing that you can, if you create a brown, you can always lighten the brown with a white, okay? So I'm going to give my light orange here, and this looks more peachy on camera. It's more like pumpkin orange in person, but I'm going to grab my blue. Any color blue works. Just put it nearby, do a little dollop, just so you can kind of grab a little bit. You don't need a lot of paint. I love coaching people on how much paint to use because you don't need a lot of paint when you paint, believe it or not. So I'm going to grab a little bit of blue on my brush. I'm going to mix it in. I'm going for more of a blue color, brown color. So if it turns a little green, it's okay. That means I just need to add a little bit more red to it. So there's a lot of different ways to make brown, and I'll go through some of those different examples. Making brown can be hard, but it can also be easy because brown happens all the time by mistake. So I added a little too much blue, which is okay, because what I can do is if it has a green tone, it just needs a little bit of red, because red and green will make brown. So it's really a game of patience, doing a little bit at a time. You can see I added way too much red. This is where we just have so much fun together to make our Highland color. And I'm going to add a little bit of white. So play with your white. I even put a little bit of this color over here in my white, and look at that. It's kind of a pretty color. So the white is going to be our friend here to lighten the color of the cow's skin. The only other areas that will need white on our picture, just so you don't use all of your white, is on the Santa cap ball at the end of the hat. And we'll need a little bit of white to kind of refine the horns and for the snow. So save your white, like don't use, all of it, but find a color for the cow that you like. And you can see I'm being really playful here. I'm playing with the colors, and everybody's cow is going to be a different color. So just embrace that fact and be really kind to yourself as you find a color that you like for the cow. And in person, this is kind of an orangish beige color. And for me, this will work. You want to have enough of the color of whatever it is to paint the cow's face and do some of the hair. So I'm okay with this color for the cow. It's fine. It's a neutral color for the cow. I'm just going to start out by painting its face. So I'm going to outline the face. I'm using the big brush because I don't need a ton of control here with regards to the details. Because we're just doing some basic back painting first. We're just doing some background colors. In almost all paint classes, you start with some of the background colors, you let it dry, and then you build upon as you go. So I'm just kind of dancing around the top of this Santa hat. I know that I can use white paint to kind of refluff the top of this hat. So I'm just filling in my cow's face, just doing some nice smooth brush strokes. You can do vertical, you can do horizontal, just try to be consistent, whatever works for you. And you can have a little bit of fun here. So one of the things that we can do is if you want to add outlines for your ears. So these cows, and I might even do, we'll get a little crazy here. Once I'm done painting the face, I'm just going to jump right into this, the furry and the fluffy and the hairiness of this cow. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to get as much paint off my big brush as possible. Unless you have a really flat edge. And this brush, it looks like I do have a flat edge. I'll just turn it. You could use this flat edge to do your hair, but since we have smaller brushes, I'm going to be a thoughtful artist today. And I'm going to find another brush that I can do my cow-like hair with. And this will kind of get us going with some of the fun stuff. So this brush is probably a number 3. If anybody received brushes from me, there are gold numbers on the sides. Just grab a brush that, you know, it's not too skinny, it's not too big, it's not too small. That might be good for hair. And you can experiment here. I'm going to use this mid-tone color. So I kind of have a lighter tone of this and I have a darker tone. The class is being recorded today, yes. And I like to do just a couple of dollops of water. Just if your paint is thick, you could always water it down a little bit. But if it's not, if it's already thin, you may not need to do this. But I like to have a nice bit of paint on this brush. And we can use this brush to kind of find the ears. And the ears, I'm going to do in the style of hair. So the ears for me, we're going to do, it's going to kind of come out under the horn and they're going to kind of come down with hair-like structure. So I'm going to use this brush to kind of have fun and be thoughtful of where my ears are going to come down to. Now, my ears may come down to maybe all the way down to here. So you can kind of use your finger. It might look funny at first, but you can figure out how long you want your ears to come down. So this maybe is how long my ear is. So I'm using the height of the longest part. Excuse me. And you can use this hair-like brush stroke. We're going to add more colors in here, so don't worry. It'll be filled in more. Excuse me. To find your ears, which is really fun. And I don't really have a ton of ear space over here, so no worries about that. But I'm going to kind of hold space for that over here in this spot. So you can kind of play with the hair over here. And we're going to be layering in darker and lighter colors. So this might look a little funny right now. Just embrace the process. Things may look undone or unfinished. Just trust the process. If you wanted to add some kind of fun hair kind of coming down, kind of coming off the side of the neck, you can play with some hair over here. We're going to add browns into our cow as well. This is where we can be really playful with some of this texture. My ears are not done, I promise. I'm going to come in with a more skinny brush and add some more fine hairs, but that's just a starting place. So it's okay for things to like evolve along the way and not look perfect out of the gate. Just having a starting place is understandable. So you can laugh at yourself. You can say, Megan, I don't know what's going on over here. this looks like a dirty mop head, like that's totally fine. I'm not judging you. Just have fun with it. I'm going to come in with other colors to bring this cow to life. My ears definitely don't look like ears right now. I'm not worried about it. But I'm just having fun with just bringing in some of this like body color into the hair. We're going to come in with some darker browns in just a minute. So I'm having fun with my Fuzzy, and he's a soft Highland cow, of course. Mine's very soft. This is where you can kind of have fun, laugh at yourself, enjoy the process. And I'm going fairly light in brush strokes down here. I'm not worried about it right now. But we can embrace this together here. We will add a cow nose and the eye in just a minute. If you wanted to add some of the locks on the face, we can't use the same color because it's the same color as the face. So you can either make the locks like have a little bit of red. So I did a little bit of red in here, and the inspiration, it has a little bit of a red tone. So you could even just start out by mixing. I did a little bit of red with this darker brown color. If I don't like this, guess what? One of the most amazing things about acrylic is that you can always paint over it, which is great. So one of the things you can do is I'm going to put an eye in this area, but I'm just going to be playful with some of this hair in the other space first. So if you wanted to come down and just give it a couple of locks of hair, kind of coming over the other side of the face, you can. You can be playful here of just bringing in some of these details. You can kind of hold a space for where the eye might be. But in these classes, I'll always encourage you to play with the colors that you're using. So I always like showing the colors that I'm using so you can kind of bring in your own along the way. So a little bit of this is playful right now. We're going to come in and make this a little bit more refined. So don't worry about that. These are just some starting places for the texture of our cow. So you can see I left some spaces in between some of this shag that we're creating. And this is white down here in between some of this. We're going to create a darker brown right now. And mine's actually going to be more of a chocolate brown, which will be really helpful for some of the more contrasting areas of this cow, because he's looking pretty shaggy right now, but it's okay. So I'm going to show you how to mix a darker brown. To make a basic brown color, as a reminder, it is either red and green. Lots of ways to make brown. Red and green is one way. Another way of making brown is orange and blue. It's a second way. Orange and blue is another way. And then a third way of making brown is mixing red, yellow, and blue all together. That's what my 4-year-old likes to do the best, is just mixing all the colors. So I'm going to make a more rich chocolate brown with you. So based on your paint, use whatever you have. Make a milk chocolate brown. For me, that's the color I'm going for. Let's see if I can do it today. So a little bit of red, a little yellow, and I have a little bit of blue here if I need it. Let's see if we can do that. And sometimes it's okay to start from scratch. If you don't have a good brown to start, you can always start from scratch and make a new brown. No judgment zone. We are our worst critics in these classes. So there's my orange. And just have a little patience. We're letting some of our crazy base coat dry. With textures and compositions like this, it takes lots of coats of colors to really bring something to life. So just always take your time. Sometimes it's hard to embrace the patience you need to paint. Now, as you're making brown, I'll throw a couple tips in there. If it's green, you need to add a little red. If your brown looks green, add a little bit of red. If your brown looks reddish, add a little green. If it looks more purpley, add a little bit of yellow. So you can see that's a brown right there. This is a milk chocolate brown. And I'm just being patient and just mixing this in all together. I personally want to make this a little darker. So I have black right here. I'm going to grab a little tiny dollop of black and I'm going to make this a little darker. So you have choices throughout these classes to change and to play with the colors and the tones and the shades that you use along the way. And I talk through that so you know what your options are, and I'm here to help. And I can't come over and do it for you. I'm really sorry about that, but I can coach you virtually on how to mix the right colors. All right, so I've added a little darkness to that. And this is going to be my darker kind of undertone for my cow. And if I don't like this color, I can change it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly, with the tip of this brush, just start to add this as a second tone for my Highland cow. Into the ears, you can start to blend it in. If you want to do very tiny hair-like brush strokes, guess what? I can easily use a smaller brush. I will do a smaller brush for like the ends. But for this part, I'm just kind of filling in, I don't want to say the shape of the ear, but for the context of this step, I'm just kind of getting in some base coats to fill in the structure of this space. And I could say, well, does it look like an ear yet? Well, not really. It kind of looks like a pigtail. It's okay. I'm sure many of you have pigtails going on. I'm just filling this in. And I'm going to get a smaller brush to play with the hair-like detail. That will make it more real for me. And maybe I might put another piece of hair kind of coming over this space. So I'm not going to be too critical of like where the ear meets the head, because I'm probably going to have another piece of hair that comes over. So I'm not too worried about that. But I do want to tuck in this darker color around the face, and I'm going to put it on the body. So this is a kind of a darker context. I'm going to come in and make some more hair-like texture after with a lighter color, but this is going to just kind of fill in my cow. And if I want to use a lighter color for my cow, I can. This is fairly dark in color, just to be totally candid with you. This, for me, seems really dark, which means for some of my highlighting and some of my final touch-ups, I can come in with a lighter color to make my cow look a little lighter. So if you are like, I hate my colors, I don't like my cow, just know that you can come in with an additional coat of paint and additional texture colors like me, and you can change the highlighting, and you can change some of the textures. So don't get too hung up on it. I want you to fill your cow in with just 2 tones of colors. I'm doing darks and lights down here. I just want to fill in the white of the cow. That is my goal right now. And I'll come in and do some more hair-like texture after, for me to really just refine these details. We could have painted the whole cow down here like a darker color first, but sometimes it's helpful to just be playful with the textures from the get-go, and that's kind of what we did. So you can change it if you want to. You can manipulate it. It's all good. Because art is all about experimentation. And we experiment in every single one of our classes. Now, we don't always paint animals. So we actually rarely paint animals because animals can be hard. We do a lot of landscapes and outdoor stuff. And we do some abstracts and different things. But with animals, we just take a few extra deep breaths to embrace the character that is about to happen. So I'm definitely going to make my cow a little lighter. But I'm filling in its coat as we speak. And just take your time. I'm using a smaller brush to kind of just go in between and weave in but I want you to kind of get rid of all the white, and I'll do a second coat of hair on top of this cow. So just take a few deep breaths and just enjoy the process. Trusting the process. If you're new here, you might think I'm a little crazy, but if you've been to my classes before, you know that you're in good hands. We will leave this class with something fun and interesting here together. And if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat, but I hope everyone's having a great time. We will do a flip and reveal once more of our cow is painted here. So everybody can see everybody's work. It's a really fun part of the experience to see our progress along the way. Really fun. And the reason you can start to see the two tones here. We have more folks joining. Awesome. You can see the two tones of the colors and how that's really just starting to bring the cow to life. The contrast of the coat is different than the face. So the face is going to be brighter in color per se. We'll do more detail on the hair on the cow's face after. So I did a little bit to start just to kind of show you. But just fill in the cow's body, bringing in some of the browns into the ears, filling in the back. And if folks are just joining, please take a moment to mute yourself. If you have any questions, feel free to use the chat window. I'm here to help. We're doing two tones for the cow's body. I have like a lot of reds going on. I'm going to lighten this up, so don't worry too much about that. Then I'm using a little bit of browns to fill in the coat, and I'll come in with a smaller brush to do some lighter hair-like structure. But you can see the cow is coming to life. It looks like we have this like white hat on the cow's head. We're going to make that red here in a minute. And then we're just going to like let this dry for a minute. So my cow is painted. It is not done by any means, but the coat is painted. It has a little texture. It has two tones. My ear is painted at a high level. I can make the ear bigger and more wispy and have a little more shape if I want to. Not worried about that yet. So take a minute to fill in the coat, and then we're going to do the eye, and we'll use our pencil to sketch the eye because I don't want you just doing paint. You can if you want to. We'll do the eye in this space, and then we'll sketch the nose with our pencil. If you want to be courageous and bold, you're welcome to use your black paint, but I am going to show you how to do the eyes and the nose with a pencil. So if we talk about eye placement, I love using my hands as visuals, and I have these dark green fingernails right now, so you can actually see where the eyes might be, which is really funny. And the eyes are pretty high on the cow's head, which is working as a terrific visual tonight. And one eye is going to be hidden by the hair, but the second eye, oh, no worries, Jessica, I'm so glad you're here. And then the second eye is going to be kind of out in the open. So what you can do is use your fingernails or use placements to figure out where you want your eyes to be. So maybe, let's see. They're kind of on the outside part. So maybe here. So I'm going to do this eye here. And the eyes are pretty easy. It's really a half circle. And it can be, so it's a half circle. So it's flat on top and it's rounded on the bottom, kind of like a pita. And you can see the eye I just drew there. And you can make a choice if you want it to be higher or lower. Well, I kind of think I want mine to be a little higher. And it's kind of hidden behind part of this hair, which you can see. So I'm making my eye a little taller, and it's totally flat on top. And you can play with the height of the eye too, which is kind of interesting. So my eye it's pretty tall. I kind of like this underline here. And then we'll have an accent line underneath. So for me, I like these big, dreamy cow eyes. So I'll paint that in black in a minute, but I'm doing sketching first. And then the nose of this cow, you can see there's a little bit if your paint is wet here, just be careful. If we find the bottom of the nose first, there is bottom chin showing. So if I'm doing an outline for the mouth, I'm going to come up a little bit. I want there to be a space down here. So I'm just going to give myself a little mark with my pencil to say, don't come any further down than this. And then you can think about how high you want your nose to be. So just give yourself a little mark and say, okay, is my nose going to be big enough? And for me, my nose is about 2.5 inches maybe. And so I did a bottom part for the bottom of the nose and the top. Now the shape of this nose is that it's going to flare out on the bottom and the top is more narrow. So you kind of have to use your eye and just start to sketch this. So I'm going to do the top of the nose first since it's more narrow. And then I'm going to flare out. It's going to come out to the side of the face just a little bit. And it's going to come in and down. So you can play with the shape of your nose. There are so many ways of painting cows' noses. You can Google a Highland cow on your phone if you want to see like what a real Highland cow's nose looks like. Let me see it. Maybe they're a little more boxy. So you can play with what you want this nose to look like. All right. So I have an eye and I have a nose, and my nose comes out and flares just a little bit. Perfect. So if you are new to these classes and you're interested in the kits, so if you sign up for these classes early, oh, actually, you know what? We changed our model. Hold on one second. Maybe we're not doing, you're right, we're not doing kits anymore. So previously with AARP New Hampshire, we delivered kits. And for the new version of the classes, we're actually not doing kits anymore. Let me just think about that for a minute. Sorry, it's been a busy day. Yeah, so I believe this is our new model for December and into the new year is you bring your own supplies because everyone really likes to use different things. And one of the things in these classes is if folks want to join using watercolors or acrylics or even oils, you can bring your own supplies. So I apologize for any confusion, but in the past we have had kits. But in the past, if you need kits in the future, you can go to any of your local supply stores if you're interested to get those there. So these classes are admission only. So I do still encourage you to come. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have on supplies if you have any. So do not hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to be a resource for you. Okay. And I apologize for that confusion. We changed the modeling of our classes to offer more flexibility for our participants. All right. So I have outlined the eye, which is fairly big. I like it big like that. And I can kind of always change the shape if I need to. And I have the shape of the mouth. And I'm going to switch to reds. We need a little more time for our cow to dry. So the nose is actually going to be a red base color, as well as the hat, which is going to be really fun. So we're going to switch to red together. We can also do the ornaments too, because I want our cow to dry a little bit more before we do the hair-like detail, especially the hair-like detail on the face too. So whatever color red that you wanted to use, you can choose that with me here. So some of the paints you might have, maybe like a brilliant red or crimson, use whatever you have, but I want you to have the same color red for the nose, for the hat, and for the ornaments. So I might go a little bit more, I might start with crimson, but I might bring in some of this other red too. So it's okay to always start with something and then change your mind if you need to. I actually might blend the two together. So just use your intuition here of what you want to use and where. And that's one of the fun things about art. You can always just take your time. And then from a brush perspective, you can use any brush that you wish. So I'm going to use So for folks, to answer a couple questions in the chat, there is a recording available to watch the drawing that will be available after the class. And then the two colors that I used for the hair was, it's more of an orangey color than a beige. I'm going to come in and lighten it up, but I made an orange and then I added white to it. And then I added a little bit of brown. I would add a little more yellow to make it a little softer, and then white's your friend to lighten it. But I used an orangish brown and then a brown for the hair. There's a little more red tone on the face, but we'll do more of that as a group. But I'm going to come in with a smaller brush and do some lighter tones for the hair, more hair-like texture with a lighter color. So that'll look nice. So apologies, but I'm going to find a red. I'm going to paint the nose entirely red. I'm going to paint the hat red, and then we'll do our ornaments because we're going to let our cow dry. So I'm going to start with the nose. And this is where you can use you can use any size brush you want here to fill in some of these objects. I'm using the big brush. And I'm just kind of outlining the nose. If you don't like this color for the nose, you don't have to use it. It seems kind of bright to me, but I'm just going to start here. And then I might kind of shade it down a little bit. I might make it a little more brown. So we'll see. So it's a little bright, but I'm just going to embrace the opportunity first. And then I can always change it. I love taking little risks in these classes just to show you what it's like. And I'm going to do the hat up on top. So there's a white Santa, there's a white snowy brim. I'm just moving my brush. There's a little wiggle here. You can kind of reshape your hat here as you're filling in your Santa hat. I personally do not like the shape of my Santa hat, so I'm going to reshape it a little bit. My cow's head is so big, my hat needs to be a little bit bigger. So as an artist, you always play with proportions, right? Of how big something is, if it's on something, etc. So I'm going to make my hat a little bit bigger. And you can see there's some of the black coming through here. That's okay. I can always put a little bit of white on top of that to kind of help the blending. So just do a base coat for your hat. I'm kind of going left to right. I'm using arc-like brush strokes. Take your time. If anyone has any questions, let me know. I'm gonna mute my nose a little bit. I'm using like a little bit of a darker red and a little bit of a brown just to like mute it with a little bit of contrast. For me, it's really bright red, so I'm just making it a little darker. A little bit of a darker red, and for me, that's working. We're going to do black details on the nose, which I think by making this a little darker just really helped me out a bit. So I didn't want a bright red cow nose. So we're going to find a color that you like for the nose, do a base coat like I am, and just let it dry. Maybe I'll even put a little bit of this darker red on the hat.
Oh, here's some recent
This is
posts.
mine.
If there's any questions, please let me know. Did someone come unmuted? Okay, just want to make sure folks are getting the help they need if they need it. All right. So I put a little bit of the darker red up on the hat up there. Perfect. And then I'm going to do a couple of ornaments over here. The ornaments need to be lighter in color, and you can kind of play with the placement. So I'm going to do low, high, and low. I'm going to do 3 ornaments. Maybe I'll do a little one first, and they could be as big or as small as you want. And I'm doing circles. Just kind of spin your brush around in a circular way. You can have them be different sizes. Have fun with it. but we will be having classes where it's admission only and you can join us next year. So be sure to check out the events calendar. I hope you all join us again. The team has been phenomenal, and I'm so glad they were able to resolve technical mishap quickly. Usually those things don't happen, but we have a great team. The AARP New Hampshire team is phenomenal to work with. So a big thanks again for them having us today, and be sure to check out all those caregiving resources if you haven't already, because they're amazing. I've seen them, I've looked at them, they're awesome. It's really impressive. So you can see I kind of staggered the heights, and I'd have different sizes. Your ornaments are going to need more than one coat, so just let them dry. Okay. If you have room on this side of your cow, I have very little room. I'm going to put like a little Santa hat kind of coming in down here, and I'll put a white pom-pom. It depends on how much room you have for a Santa hat. I'm just going to add like a little bit of red, and I'll add like a little white pom-pom over here. My hair is going to come on top of the Santa hat here, so that's why I kind of just added a little bit of a fill. We're going to do more hair, but get a little bit of a Santa hat tail in over here if you want to add that. It's optional, you don't need to, but I'm adding that in here. And then we just have a little patience, just like our cow here. We're letting our cow dry. This looks so unfinished. Don't worry. I promise there's more details. Sometimes when things just look funny, you kind of have to embrace it and laugh along the way. All right. Trusting the process. One thing I can do to help you trust the process here is if you let your Santa hat dry, your ornaments and your nose, we can do a little bit of black detail to help things come to life here. So if you want to clean your brushes, I'll show you a little bit of black detail we can do. So with a small brush and a little bit of black paint, you can paint your eye. This will help boost your confidence here. So I'm kind of painting my pita. My eye's pretty big, but it's okay. And it's going to be tucked behind this piece of hair here, so only part of the eye is showing. And I'll add a little bit of a twinkle in the cow's eye, but this cow has a little bit of eyeliner. So on the inside of the eye, there's a line and a space that kind of outlines, I don't want to say the eye socket, but a little bit of outlining detail. So you can play with that. And I'm going to outline my cow's nose. Now, I'm really not sold on the color yet. So if I want to change the color, I can always change it. But with a thin black brush, you can outline the nose. This will start to help it kind of come together for you a little bit more. We're going to do a lot of outlining details like this. So this is just the start of it. Okay, we know there's a nose there. That's good. If you wanted to outline the cow's face with a little bit of black, that's optional. So again, some of these things you may or may not want to do, but these will really help to tie things together. And then the cow has these black nostrils. They're a little funky shaped, so you kind of have to improvise. I would say do a teardrop. That's probably the easiest thing. But these nostrils flare a little bit to the left and right. So let's just use your imagination here. Oh, this is helping tremendously. I think I have a flash of confidence that just came across here. These are kind of like it's kind of a dancing teardrop. I don't know if that's a real thing or not. So you can add a little shape to the nostrils. You can make them as big or as small as you want, but you can see where the placements are. And now the nose actually looks like a nose. Imagine that. All right. One person had a question around the January class calendar. Absolutely. Let's see here. And we love, anyone can register. I encourage you to join us again. It may or may not have been posted or not yet. The January event is scheduled for Wednesday, January 10th at 6 p.m. So if you'd like to save the date, we'd love to see you back. All right. Another thing you can do with this black detail, my cow is actually coming to life. So I'm getting very excited over here as an artist. You can outline the Santa part of the Santa hat here, where like the white puffy area is. So one of the things that we're doing intentionally right now, if you've picked up on it or not, is we're doing small details to let other areas dry. I do this in all of my classes very intentionally because it allows us to shift. And sometimes it's good to not work in wet areas. It's a very good thing to not work in wet areas. So you can have some fun here. You can make this Santa hat as you can play with the texture, a little kind of cloud-like, you can add a little fluff here and there. And I'm just outlining kind of the white area. Now you don't have to paint in here white if you don't want to, because we held space from the background, right? For this white area, which is quite convenient. I am just going to outline my horns with the black, just so it's clean and consistent. So you can see how the black accents of the cow that we're working on are really starting to come to life. We're going to do the same detail with the black, but with white to bring the kind of snowy aspect to this picture. So some of you may be realizing you're actually going to have a fairly decent painting here. This is where we are patient along the way, and we know that things are going to come together. So even though this black outlining on the horns, it's kind of cleaning up the edges a little bit. You can reshape the horns if you need to. I'm just doing this for sanity's sake on the left and on the right side of the horns. You can even outline, like if the Santa hat comes onto the horn here, you can outline the corner of that Santa hat too. No big deal. But we're going to add a few bits more hair here and there. But you can see the Santa hat is now standing out. Terrific. So again, we're being intentional of where can we add black to kind of make things pop. So I outlined the face of my Highland cow. You can see that was important. I outlined the nose of my Highland cow with black. I did the nose, nostrils. I painted my eye, and I outlined the horns and just did the white part. We're going to add black in other places, but we're going to move on to a couple other things. Now my Highland cow is still wet in some areas. If mine is wet in areas, yours might be too. So we're not going to touch the cow yet. I know this is probably killing some of you, but we're going to do a little bit of white detail work next, okay? Easy white detail work. I love going from like complicated details to the easy work. Kind of keeps us going here. So if you need more time to play with the black outlining, feel free to do that. If you are ready to switch to letting things continue to dry and doing some white detail work with me, you may shift, okay? So I grabbed a small brush of choice. This is just a nice fine point brush. And I'm going to put some clean white paint on my plate here. So a small thumbnail's worth is right about here. All right. And I'm going to get some of that paint on my brush. And we're going to do cappers for our ornaments. So you're going to do a little white knob on top of the ornaments. They can be big or small. So a small rectangular shape centered on the top of the ornament. And take your time. Everyone paints at different speeds. So if I'm zooming along, you just do your own thing, okay? You can't mess up this part, I promise. So little cappers on top of these ornaments. And then we're going to do that line that connects these ornaments to the Highland cow horn. So you're basically going to find the middle of the white capper. And I'm going to do the little one first. And using a small brush, I'm going to do a straight line. And just go slow. I'm just going to connect it to the horn. You're just connecting a line from the ornament to the horn. And I'm just using white paint. And again, a big thanks to AARP New Hampshire for having us tonight. These classes are always so much fun, and we're so grateful to be able to offer it to so many people. All right. Be sure to bring a friend next time. Be sure to have them sign up and register. The more the merrier. You know, a caregiver or someone who deserves a little extra TLC, be sure to invite them and share the caregiving resources with them that AARP has to offer. Trying to do, this is a steady hand. This is a hard part, which I'm sure many of you are realizing. It's really hard to get a nice steady line. Sometimes I use the pinky of my finger to balance and stabilize my hand. There's a lot of tips and tricks. Take your time. Okay. Terrific. I like to start at the ornament and go up so you don't have a wobbly line coming down from the horn if you went the other way. If you want to be really precise, which I'm sure there's plenty of type A personalities in this class, you can get a ruler or a straight edge with your pencil. I'm freehanding it tonight, but if you wanted to get a straight edge and draw a line with your pencil and then paint on top of that, this is a no judgment zone. There are a lot of creative solutions to our artwork. So many. I try to remind us in these classes wherever you can use a ruler to make things more precise. Sometimes when we do suns or we do large sunsets or moons, we trace a bowl or a round object to just get a perfect circle. That really helps our process out quite a bit. All right. Well, my line wasn't straight. There's a little wind happening over here on the side. Okay. The other thing you can do with your white paint is we're going to do a candy cane out of the Highland cow's mouth, which is going to be terrific. But before we do the candy cane, you can have a little white circle in your Highland cow's eye, like a little glimmer. And then there's a small rounding line just on the inside. So that's just adding a little bit of a personality per se. My white dot is really big. I can always make it smaller. So no big deal there. And then, so if you do a small circle and then a line on the inside of the eye, and then on the top of the nose, inside on the red area, you can have a thin white line to highlight the top of the cow's nose. Right here. And then we'll do the candy cane together. And we have to do the Santa pom-pom too. Santa pom-pom is probably easier than the candy cane. Maybe we'll do that first. So you can kind of use your white paint to do your Santa pom-pom on the bottom of the hat here. And I'll outline the Santa hat with a little bit of black paint after, but you can do a Santa pom-pom. If that's an object that you're adding, feel free. I'm just going to fill that in with the white paint as well. And we'll outline the Santa pom-pom of black after. So there are so many details. Okay. So I'll remind everyone where I added a little bit of white detail. I did the tops of the ornaments with small toppers. I did lines connecting the ornaments to the horn. I did a white dot in the eye with a little rounded line. I can use black to make my white dot smaller if I wish. And then I did a white highlighted area here in the nose. Red is your eraser here color. So if you put a little too much white in the nose, just let it dry completely 100%. And then you can always paint over it or adjust the shape. So no big deal there. And then I did this white Santa pom-pom on the end of the hat. That is where I used my white for right now. I am going to add white in other places, like on the hair, but we'll do the hair after. I am going to add a candy cane coming out of the cow's mouth. So for me, it's going to come out towards, it's going to kind of face down and come towards the ornaments. So just do a line that will like reflect the candy cane first, like a simple hook of a line, and then you can make it bigger. And it's kind of coming out from the nose area because that's where the mouth is. And you can make the candy cane as thick or as thin as you wish. Doing a single line is good first because then you can change the size ever so slowly. And once we're done the candy cane, we'll have our first flip and reveal, which is going to be really fun because our cow it's present now, right? But it's not quite done yet. And then you can slowly make your candy cane thicker. This is where you make one part of your candy cane thick and you have to try to not keep making it totally thicker along the way. It's the most tricky part of candy canes. And we're going to add the red stripes to the candy cane after. This is where you just take your time. Candy cane can be long, it might be short, it might be really long, right? Everybody's pictures are going to look so different. And that's the best part of these art classes because we're doing what comes to us and everybody's going to have their own style and their own take. It's the best part. So that looks like a candy cane for the most part here. I'm kind of playing with how it is coming out of the mouth a little bit here on like where the nose is. I want that filled in as white as possible. You can choose if you want to do a second coat of white on that or not. You may need to let it dry to add a second coat. Based on the quality of paint you're using, it may dry quickly. It may need a minute. Just make that judgment call on your own. And we're going to let that dry. But don't forget to smile. If you're painting with someone, say, you're doing a great job. If you're sitting there by yourself painting, just enjoy your tea and just say, hey, this is starting to look like a cow, believe that or not. All right. And if not yet, then we just have a little bit more work to do, right? But you can see how the colors are really starting to complement one another with the reds of the hat and the reds on the ornaments and the whites coming through with the candy cane and the snow. the hat on the Santa hat. We will add snow at the very end, which will be really fun. But what we're going to do is in 1 minute, we're going to have our first flip and reveal, our show and tell, where we're going to show off our work, which is really fun. So I'm going to remove the spotlight for me. And in the view in the top right-hand corner, oh, look, Miss Jenny's here. Hey, Jenny. Lots of folks have been hiding behind the video. On view in Zoom, in the top right-hand corner, you can go to gallery view and folks can, some of you, I can see your screens. If you want to turn on your video and show off your work, feel free to finish your brush stroke. But welcome Christina and Julie. Welcome Nicole, great to see you. And Erin, Catherine, so hold up your artwork. I love this. Oh my gosh, look at these personalities. Animals are all about personalities. Tremendous. Great job, Julie and Mary and Karen. Terry Cody, you have a one-eyed cow right there. All right. Amazing. Jenny taped hers. Very nice. Lonnie is here from Hawaii. Nice job, Lonnie. I love Lonnie has legs on hers. Amazing. She painted a whole cow. I appreciate that. There's so many rule breakers out there. There's Miss Lisa Moker, Lisa Murphy. Nice job, ladies. Eva, Christina. Look at all these candy canes. Tremendous, tremendous. There's LGG Photos and Co. Nice job, ladies. And there's Carol and Co. All right, ladies, I see some cows up there. All right, I see some laughing too. That's important. We got to be laughing and having fun. That's why we're here, right? Nice job. Oh, and cheers. All right, I see some cheerses. Raise your glasses all over the country here. Cheers to you making time for yourself. All right. Amazing, Eva and Kirsten. Thank you all for sharing your work. I got to tell you, it's so important for us to share our work along the way, because whether you laugh at yourself or you laugh at someone else laughing, it's like, it's all here for fun, you know? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and pin my screen and we'll keep on going, but I applaud you all for sharing your work and being courageous here. So, there are a few major details that we need to continue on before we end class tonight. One is the highlighting work on the cow's hair. Now, we've been very patient, and I applaud you all for your patience for the cow. We've done a lot of details around the cow and the hair itself, but we're going to go back to that right now. So I think it's going to be really helpful for you to find a small brush of choice. I'm going to try to find one of my smaller brushes, something I think that would be really good for a fine hair-like texture. And I'm going a little smaller here. And I'm going to go for a lighter color because my cow needs a little bit more lightness, a little highlighting, ladies and gents here. So I have some of my browns and oranges here, or my brown colors. I'm going to make these a little lighter. And how coincidental, I have a little bit of white right next door. So I'm going to mix a little bit lighter of a tone to bring in some lighter hair-like structure. A little highlighting. So the tone of your cow is different. And I'm also going to put a little water in this acrylic paint. For me, this acrylic paint's a little thick. In my classes, I always incorporate a little bit of water with acrylic along the way. Just there's so many different tips and techniques that you can do. And I do a little bit of paint management. I talk about this in the classes. It's about how much paint is actually on your brush. Now I'm going to use this and I'm going to do hair coming and kind of helping to form the ear. So I'm going to do some long hairs just to kind of add a little bit of sass, a little bit of flair. See that? To my ear. Now all the other colors that I've added in are still going to be there, which is good. It's undertone colors, but this is the highlighting, right? Some of you may be hairdressers. Maybe you've been a hairdresser in your past life. I was not. But you can see, look at now my soft, gentle Highland cow here is getting a little bit of a hairdo. Now with a really light hand, giving him a little bit of a little hair. See the difference that a little bit of lightness does? Now you can do that right here around the eye. You can even add more hair around the eyes. Play with the colors that you have on your palette. This is where I want you to kind of get into the process a little bit of being a fluid artist. Get to know your cow. What does your cow need here? You can bring in browns if you want to bring in some browns into the face. Use the skinny brush to add in hair where you need it. And it's okay to bounce around from colors to colors. So I have like a brownish down here. I have some darker oranges here, and then I have my lighter color up here. And you can add a little water, mix it around if you need to loosen it. Manage how much paint is on your brush. Look for that nice point at the end of your brush. I'm going to bring this lighter tone down into the coat. And this is where you're gonna bring your cow to life with, if you need darker tones, use darker tones. If you need lighter tones, use lighter tones. Everyone's using different colors, so you're gonna have to mix custom colors based on the colors of your coat. But you can see that it's a boy apparently. He's getting a little shaggy here, which is good. Then you can make his hair stick out like me, or you can keep him under control, right? Could have the hair come down, not flick straight out like he just went through the hair dryer. But use a thin brush, go slow, use a soft hand. And for me, this is going to be the hair-like texture on my Highland cow. And I'll do the face after. I'm going to work on the body and the ears, and then I'll move to the face. Your hair can be straggly. You can have some short hairs and long hairs. You can have a little highlighting if you want under the chin. If not, no worries. There's actually a little contrast in the picture under the chin. So we'll add a little bit of black maybe, or a little bit of brown under the chin. You could do that. But I am just, you can do long brush strokes. You can do short and long. Try doing some shorter brush strokes. Try doing some longer brush strokes. But this is why we take the time to do the detail for the cow. We did 2 tones of color in the background and it looked messy, right? We all knew that, we could see it. But a part of the process is getting some of those underlying colors so we can do some of the highlighting work on top that we're doing right now. And that's what makes it all worth it. We could have painted the cow just a flat color, but in these classes, I love to let you explore with doing things in a little bit different of ways. We use 2 colors separately and differently. This is on the ear. And I'm going to have hair come right on top of the Santa cap, like I said, so it looks a little bit natural. And then I can go in and I can do some pieces around the face. So I want to make sure that the hair is, there's details on the face. So I'm going to make sure there's enough hair elements. And the hair on the face is a little bit more of a red tone. So you might need to mix again. If you don't want it to be a red tone, that's fine. Just make sure you can, the bangs are filled in per se. on top of the face. So for me, I'm just going to go outline. I have these locks of hair. Somebody called them bangs at the beginning of class. Absolutely. But I need a second color in here. I might bring in some of the brown into the bangs because the bangs area, the face area, because there's brown in this coat. So that might help me with a little contrast. So I'm just going to see what it looks like. Again, I'm experimenting here. So let's just see what it looks like with a little bit of brown in the bangs. And for me, that works because it's starting to match. So we do complementary colors in different areas. So you can fill these bangs in with whatever colors. And we'll actually do some white highlighting on these bangs on the face too. So we'll do that at the very end, but just fill these bangs in so they kind of stand out on their own first. It's an important thing. For me, I'm using a little bit of the brown. I might come in with some darker red. Any colors that you want to use to fill in these bangs for the cow, the long hair on the face. Feel free to do that. And it's fun here to play with different colors. Sometimes it can be stressful if you're not used to it, but it's just about having that patience of just trying. You are your own worst critic, so just take your time. I might use a little dark red. We will outline some of these bangs in black just to really make them stand out. But I'm using a dark red as an initial way to outline different sections of the bangs per se. So I'm just using a red color just to kind of outline so they really stand out initially. If you don't like the red, you can use a different color. And we're going to outline those with the black too. So just having a little bit of patience, doing some base colors for the bangs, just like we did for the cow. I might add in a little bit more brown. We'll do black outlining in just a minute, just to show you what that looks like. But just fill the colors in first. The black and the white are really just the final steps of the bangs. So I just want you to make sure that these are totally filled in from a base color perspective first, just like the body was. Check the hair. So it goes all the way up to the hat too. You might have some skin coming through, like that base color. Just make sure that there's not a ton of that skin-like color coming through. So you can see this looks like there's actually like a lot of hair. The other really cute thing that we can do while we're letting our hair dry is you can use some of this lighter color that I did for these little spritzes. You can have little hairs come out up here by the horns, like a 1, 2, 3. Super cute. Oh my gosh. Like the hairs coming out of the hat. So on the left and the right side, you could just do a couple of flicks and flares. This is adorable. And there's even some coming up on top of the Santa hat, like from the bangs area. Let's see if I can do this. It's like coming up onto the Santa hat. So cute. I'm just doing it right on the Santa hat, like it's coming up from underneath. And this is with like the lighter color. You could paint right on top of the Santa hat, it doesn't matter. So cute. All right. If you wanted to also take some of this beige and do a little bit of this beige like on the horns, I'm going to use a little bit of water, but if you wanted to do it on like the underside, like on the bottom side of this horn, I might do a little finger smudging. So if anybody's new to these classes with me, I also do, you smudge with your finger in some of these classes, which is really fun. So with a little water, I love to experiment. With a little water and a little bit of this beige, I'm just doing a little smudging on the underside of these horns just to give it a little bit of shading. And I'm kind of smudging up a little bit. So a little water. This kind of adds a little bit of shading. I'll bring this up a little bit more so you can see it. There we go. So if you wanted to add a little shading to the underside of the horn with this same like lighter color, you can do that. And I just take a little bit of water with this lighter color. Not so it's too drippy, but I can put a little bit over here, smudge that up here. This is how we create depth sometimes. So if I try it on the top side of the horn, it may make a little bit of depth, like the middle of the horn is lighter. So you can play with this if you want. So I did some on the top and I did some on the bottom. If you don't want to be this experimental tonight, you don't have to be. But in my classes, I always love offering a little bit of this and a little bit of that for you to be playful. Okay. So let's look around and see if there's any other colors that we need to add here or there. We need to use red for the candy cane and doing a second coat for your ornaments. Once we're done the red there, I think we're going to do the black and white highlights for the rest of the picture. So everyone's at a different step in this class. So again, just take a deep breath. Wherever you're at, feel free to spend as much or as little time as you need to based on the step that you're on. We're doing great on time. These classes are typically an hour and a half to 2 hours. We try to keep them around an hour and a half just to keep them a manageable time. The recording is available if you need after. Be sure, we'd love to have you join us for our January class, which is January 10th at 6 p.m. And it's admission only, so you can bring any supplies that you wish. But I typically use acrylic in these classes. All right. If you have any questions, all my contact information is also on a small printout. And if you could also contact AARP New Hampshire directly with any information. So just feel free to, the registration information is the best information for you to get in touch with the AARP New Hampshire team. But my name is Megan and it's so nice to be here. Yes, the video is available. It will be emailed to you directly. I'm not sure when the email will be sent out. So feel free to keep an eye out in your email for the recording. So I'm going to take a little bit of red and I'm going to do a second coat for these ornaments. Doing a second coat for these ornaments is worth it. Trust me, it'll really make them pop. We will do a little bit of white highlighting on these ornaments as well, but we'll do that after. But we're going to let these ornaments dry before we do the white highlighting. But this is the easy stuff. We're doing all the fun finishing touches at this point. And there's a ton of details, and we've covered a lot in the past hour and a half. So feel free to, again, you could spend so much time on the hair just for your Highland cow, just as an example. So just always take your time. There are lots of fast painters, there are slow painters in these classes. I want you to always know to show up as yourself because we'll be here to support you along the way. So I did a second coat for these ornaments, and I am going to grab a smaller brush to do the candy cane striping. Now the candy cane striping, I'm using a small brush with red paint, and there are diagonal lines. So start either at the end of the candy cane in the mouth or at the tip of the candy cane on the bend and do one diagonal line. And this diagonal line is going to kind of set the pace for the angle of the rest of the lines. So just start it out. And just, you want to pay attention to the spacing. And just start adding in some red striping for your candy cane. You can do as thin stripes, you can do thick stripes. You got this. You can have a little bit of bend in your striping. Where it bends around the hook part, the outer edge is usually a little wider, which you can play with. And manage how much paint is on your brush. Manage, I want you to have a nice fine tip, nice fine point. And I'm just going to play with the angle and the width of my stripes. I am not aiming for perfection here, ladies and gents. I am aiming for it to look okay. And you can't really mess up candy canes too much. We're all having fun here, so it's all good. It is the season. Hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving holiday. If you didn't celebrate Thanksgiving, no worries. We're all jumping into our own December holidays. This is a great calm before the storm. Be sure to register for our January class. It may or may not be posted yet, but I do hope to see you there. All right. But I applaud you all making time for yourself tonight. I hope you have enjoyed the class so far. All right, so there's my candy cane. I've gotten all my red in places that I need it. So look around, say, do I need to add red anywhere else? And for me, I'm happy. My Santa hat over here, I think has enough red on it, on the tail. I could come in and do a second coat on the Santa tail around some of these hairs. But before you put your red paint away, look around and see if you need to add red anywhere else. For me, I'm pretty good. We're going to do our white and our black accent details as our final steps. And we'll start with black because we'll end with white because we're going to add snow to our picture. So some of you in Arizona and California, you get to add a little snow in your life here. Optional, of course. All right. Thank you, Sharon and Nancy and Debbie and John, for the positive comments. So great to have you here. It's always a pleasure working with you all and being here to support your creative experiences. All right. So we're going to start with black for our final accent details, and then we'll do white. So if you are ready to transition with me, you certainly may. If you need a couple more minutes, just go at your own speed. So I'm going to have a small brush of choice. Again, I'm using kind of the hair-like detail brush that I did. And I'm going to put a little bit of black paint on my brush. And I'm going to spin my brush on my plate so I have a nice fine point of black paint. And my candy cane is drying. We're going to outline that in a minute. But why don't we outline our Santa pom-pom, if you have one of those. Or Santa hat pom. And you can also outline your Santa hat if you wish. Okay, there we go. All right, so I outlined my Santa hat over here and my Santa palm. I'm going to outline my candy cane when it's dry. It looks like it's dry for me. I'm just going to outline the whole thing with a thin black line. I'm using a nice slow and steady hand and a thin line. So if you need to switch brushes, typically during these classes, I'll remind you to be like, should you switch your brush? I'll do that for you. For you to think about if you should be switching your brush to a smaller brush or not. Sometimes that's helpful. And then I love this next one. You can outline some of the hairs in the bangs with a little bit of a black outline. So one side of the bang, or maybe just certain parts, you can outline it with a thin black line, which I really like because it just allows your eye to be playful with this swag happening here, this swagger. Just a few thin black lines will help tremendously. And it just, you don't need them on every side of the bang, but it helps just a little bit. If you need to add any black to kind of help shape the ears, you could add a couple black lines kind of coming down from the ears to add a little shading. Optional. This is where you can kind of just get a little more intimate with the texture of your cow. So if you wanted to add a little bit of soft black outlining, so maybe to the outside of your cow. I'm not going to go too crazy, but I just did 4 or 5 lines to outline the bangs, and that helped tremendously. We're going to do white highlighting too on the bangs next, and that's really going to bring our cow to life. So I did a little bit on the ears. Again, you can based on how long you brought your hair down on your ears represents that piece. But for me with the black, that's it really. My final steps are with the white highlighting on the hat and the bangs and on the ornaments, and then we'll add snow. So I'm done with my black. I'm just gonna clean off this brush. But look around your picture. Feel like where else you want to add any black accents, feel free to do that. But the white is going to be my final touch. We're doing great for time. Tonight's class was about an hour and a half with the delays, so we did really good. But you could easily spend 2 or 3 hours on this picture, and I'm sure some of you are feeling that. So just know that's okay. Especially some of you may be perfectionists. No judgment zone. We have a lot of perfectionists in these classes. We have a lot of folks that are just here to have fun too. So all is well. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of highlighting on the ornaments with some white paint. So you can do a small, like a lower C curve, maybe with a little dot to highlight some of these ornaments. And I'm just picking one side and just doing a little bit of highlighting on one side, just to add a little bit of reflectiveness per se. There's a lot of ways you can do reflective work, but we're going to keep it pretty simple tonight. And then this is another really fun thing to try. Within the bangs of your cow, you can do, on the inside of the black line that you just did, you can do a little bit of a white highlight. It's totally optional, but you can highlight some of these wispies. So you can see mine. I love being the guinea pig in all of my classes. So you can see me take all the risks, and then you can decide if you like that or not. Using a really light hand, just doing a little bit of gentle outlining. And you can add even a little bit of white on your ears. This is gentle, wispy, like highlighting for the hairs. This will brighten your cow in certain areas. I'm just doing a little bit of the white highlighting on the ears and on the bangs only. I'm not adding any of that white highlighting on the body intentionally, keeping the body a little darker in color. And then there's a little bit of white on Santa's hat. So if you wanted to do like a little bit of outlining, to add a couple creases to Santa's hat, you can. And then you can do some fun white snow. And there's a couple ways of doing snow. I'll show you that after. So I did a little white highlighting on the bangs, a little bit of white highlighting on the ears, and a little white highlighting on the hat. And then I'm going to get a nice clean dollop of white paint on my plate to do the snow. The way that I do snow is using the end of the wooden brush. So I have the round end of the brush here. I like to, my white paint is right here. I like to dip the end of the brush in. So you see like a little dollop on the end of the brush. And you can do little white snowflakes all over. The harder that you push down on the brush, the bigger the snowflakes will be. So the lighter you set down, the smaller the snowflakes will be. So you can be playful with that. I like to do clusters of 2, maybe clusters of 1, 2, 3. You can put snow on your picture, and you can do as many snowflakes or as few as you wish. So do some and say, do I want to go snow crazy? Sometimes more is less. I'm not going too crazy, but you can see how much fun it was adding some snow. There's actually snow falling on my cow. Look at this. Oh my gosh, it's on the hat. It's on his bangs. It's on its nose. It is snowing everywhere. So fun. It's a little scary putting white dots all over after you spend all this time painting, but you get the picture. You don't need to put it everywhere, but so fun. I hope you all enjoyed tonight's class. The size brush I'm using for the highlights is probably a 1 or a 2. Or you could even use a smaller brush too. It's absolutely up to you on how small you want to go. So it looks like the January class has been posted. I encourage you all to register and join us, tell a friend, bring a friend. But a big, big thanks to our friends at AARP New Hampshire for having us. The class has been recorded and will be sent to you via email. But I want to thank you all so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this. The patience of the layering is something that I braced you for, and that things really do come together with a little patience. And I do apologize for any of the technical difficulties up front, but a big thanks to Mary and the AARP New Hampshire team for solving that problem quickly for us. I wish you all a very happy holiday. I'll hang out for a minute if anyone has questions. But I want to thank you again so much for being here. And most importantly, I hope you had a good time. Awesome. So glad you all had fun. Making sure I'm happy with my snow here. I think I am snowed out. All right.
Hi, Megan. Do you still have a I guess a place where you share the paintings?
Yeah, so we do have a shared folder for AARP New Hampshire. If you wanted to send me an email with any of your artwork, I would love to capture those for you and add them to the picture. So what I'll do is I'll put in the meeting chat my email. If anyone wants to take a picture and email it to me, I would love for you to take a picture with your phone and send me a quick email. It's megan@paintandsipbt.com. I am happy to capture those for you and share those, but thank you so much for asking. Yay, and Lonnie's here from AARP Hawaii. So glad to see you. I hope you had so much fun, Lonnie. Yes, perfect. All right. So glad you came. Thank you so much. If you're interested in joining the upcoming classes, the next is January 10th. Admission only, so bring any supplies that you wish to use. It's kind of a great way to use what you have on hand, or if you need an excuse to get some new things, what a great time of year to put that on your wish list. And if anyone has any questions about the class, you're welcome to reach out to AARP New Hampshire, or you can email me directly, either way. All right. Well, I want to thank you all for being here, and I do hope to see you in January. Have a wonderful holiday. Be sure to always take care of yourself and others. And I love that Randy uses a digital photo program to join tonight's class. You know, Randy, I commend you. You don't always need paint and a canvas. You could use pencils or crayons or colored pencils to join our classes. So the most important thing is for you just to come and show up and be yourself. And You can use any supplies that you have on hand. My email again is megan@paintandsipvt.com. And again, a big thanks to AARP New Hampshire for having us. All right. Oh, there's Randy's screen. Nice job. I love this, Randy. Thank you.